The dollar is clearly declining. Let's talk about if Black Americans should be worried about this or not. You've seen the headlines. The US dollar is declining. And while it's not going to just disappear, there are some economic things that we need to talk about that will impact your life, your children's life, your niece's life, the community's life, basically everyone across the globe, because the dollar used to be the dominant currency, but it is slowly reversing itself for a number of reasons. This is going to affect our budgets, our sense of safety, and our generational legacy. So the real question is, as you're living abroad, how is this going to impact you? How does it impact you from the States? And what are some tangible things that you can do right now to diversify yourself, diversify the way you make money, and invest in your own skills, because you are your best investment. So here's what we're actually seeing. Since early 2024, the US dollar has dropped nearly 10% against a basket of other global currencies. It's the lowest in almost 3 years since the pandemic. And the reason is a mix of tariffs that President Donald Trump put into place, national debt exceeding 36 trillion US dollars, and persistent inflation at around 2.8%, which is still above the Federal Reserve's 2% goal, okay? So inflation has been increasing year on year. On top of that, 59 out of 66 global Forex strategists recently agreed that demand for dollar-based assets is declining. Now, if you look at countries like Tanzania, if you didn't hear the news, Tanzania recently said that they will not be utilizing US dollar at all. I know when we used to live there, we could not even find US dollar. In fact, when we left Tanzania to travel to Mauritius, we had to exchange currency in euro. We couldn't even find the Great British Pound either. And so people are not using the US dollar the way the US would make you think they are, especially if you happen to be in East Africa or Asia. And FYI, 90% of these Forex strategists said that they believe this decline will continue, okay? So it's not something that's like, oh, it's just an issue for right now. Everything's gonna be normal. Everything's gonna go back to pre-pandemic. No, America is literally in an economic crisis and has been for a while, but we're just seeing it come to fruition. We're seeing the head of it, the apex, the part where, in a storyline where you have like the beginning, but the middle is where the problems ensue. That's the rise, the climax, and then the ending is the resolution. Well, we're at the top, the apex, where the main issue is happening with the US dollar across the world. And here's a little FYI. Remember, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, they are continuing to move away from US dollar. About 1/3 of their intra-BRICS transactions, 33% of their transactions are now happening in local currencies instead. So no, the dollar is not collapsing, but it is losing its dominance, okay? And for those of us who've often been last in line economically, that matters, especially in the Black community, okay? Especially when you're looking at going abroad. And so I also want to give you some solutions here, but you want to stay until the end of this video because we need to talk about why this matters. As you know, or maybe you don't know, I've shared this statistic before, you can look it up. By 2050, Black wealth in America is projected to hit 0. Okay, there are studies that are out there that say Black Americans have no wealth compared to the slave trade days. Like the amount of wealth that the community has on average as a whole is exactly the same as when we had just gotten out of slavery, which is crazy. But I also want you to know this is not about fear mongering. This is about facing a harsh truth. The racial wealth gap is staggering, and when currency weakens, it tends to hit those at the margins the hardest. Higher inflations means your groceries, your rent, your medical care, student loans, everything will go up while your wages stay the same. Meaning you could get paid $30 per hour. Back 5 years ago, you could get paid $30 per hour and get more for your money when you go to the grocery store, right? Because maybe your bread wasn't as much. Maybe your bread was 5% lower, 10% lower. But now with the increase in prices and your wages staying the same or going lower, that causes a huge issue economically for many of those in America. Okay, so one solution is clearly to leave America. That's the solution that we did. That's just one, and that's like the main one, because obviously if you can knock out the price of rent, the price of housing, even the price to purchase property in another company, if you can drastically reduce that by 40 to 60%, you're in a better place to save, to learn, to invest in stocks, and to even invest in your business. But I also want to be clear, do not take this as financial advice, but I will tell you how we're thinking. Like I just said, we live in Mauritius, Africa. We've lived in Africa for over 5 years. The reason being is that we want to live somewhere with a 40 to 60% lower cost of living than America has, right? This is a way for you to get leverage, but you first have to identify the fact that, hey, I can't just look at the average American economic statistics. I do have to look at the statistics within my community to see what's really happening. That really dictates and tells what we're going to be able to accomplish as a people. And for our family, we quickly saw way back in before 2019, back in 2015, this is not on a good trajectory. Let's go somewhere else. Let's go to Africa and see how we can start to save more, invest in our businesses, raise our children in a more peaceful and modest atmosphere, okay? And leave a legacy that's actually worth leaving rather than the legacy of America. But I'm not going to go too much into the culture. That's going to have to be a different video. Now, the next way that we have diversified, we network with people across a multitude of continents. Obviously, North America, but also the Middle East, obviously Africa, Australia recently, Europe. So we are networking across multiple continents. I hope to one day network in Singapore and Dubai. But we are diversifying, and even if I'm not holding like a Dubai currency in my hand, a Singaporean currency in my hand, those networks are the diversification, because if you have business contacts and clients across the globe, people who know your name, people who know your personal brand, know who you are, then you are going to be better diversified than the person who is not talking about their business, building their personal brand, coming online and creating that social capital that's necessary to build out a business. By the way, you should check out the Black Educators Amplified playlist, because cohort 7 opens up on August 29th. Right now it is June 9th. So you want to check that out. Like, you want to go at the link in the description, or if you already know what Black Educators Amplified is and you're like, sis, I've been waiting, I've been lurking in the background, I've been quietly seeing the progress that you've made and that your clients have been able to accomplish through the 8-week accelerator, guess what? It's now 12 weeks. 12 weeks, yes. So the first 8 weeks, weeks 1 to 2, we do the 20-question framework. 3 and 4, website copy development. 5 and 6, email and video marketing. 7 and 8, launching with your content marketing calendar. But we added another entire month for you to actually start posting while we are in this container, so we can come back and teach you data analysis, the same data analysis we do for our corporate clients. Link in the description. Check it out to see if it's right for you. We begin August 29th at 2 p.m. Eastern. Every other Sunday, live sessions. Check it out. And while we live in Africa, understand that we also invest in property. We invest in real estate. Now, this is something that you want to do super, super slowly, and you want to understand the real estate market in the country that you're in, and you need to understand real estate in general. We've had a lot of help from our clients that we've had the past couple of years. A lot of them have been realtors, real estate firms, people who purchase property, people who develop property, and so they have been instrumental in helping us sell land that we had, sell property we had in America, invest over here in Africa. And then we're even thinking long term in terms of just like the types of villas that we would want to acquire, types of properties. Like some of the markets we're looking at, obviously Mauritius, Kenya, we already have property in Tanzania, okay? And so that's something that you want to think about. South Africa is a great one because they have freehold land. Mauritius, freehold land. I'm not so sure about like Botswana and stuff like that. I know Kenya is a 99-year lease, Tanzania 99-year lease, but you can definitely see what works for you. But again, I've also seen people who are purchasing property in Indonesia, in Thailand. So I really want you to like expand your horizons, because it's not just one specific continent that you can look into. You really want to be diversified. Like we were talking about, hey, we may decide to like make a scouting trip to New Zealand, because we're thinking that much into the future, literally to the 10th generation, because we understand the things that are coming to the earth, and we want our children's children to be prepared, because the scripture says a wise man leaves an inheritance not just for his children, it literally specifically says for his children's children. Okay, at the end of the day, the goal is to have peace, flexibility, and resilience regardless of what happens to the dollar. Again, another part of that is actually traveling. Okay, although we're talking about currency, I want you to understand that currency is just the end result. It is the manifestation of the networking, the business contacts, the traveling that you have done, because traveling opens you up to understand different economies, different commodities. And of course, you can always invest in stocks. We invest in stocks, we invest in crypto, specifically XRP, HBAR, like crypto like that, not like other weird ones like XRP, HBAR, XLM. This is like a whole blockchain thing that you're gonna have to listen to my husband, because he is much more articulate on that. Okay, you're gonna have to go back to his videos and see what he has been talking about when he breaks down the differences between XRP, HBAR, HLM, and all of those things. Again, we are not finance advisors, but we can share our journey with you, and it has been quite a wonderful journey, I must say. You may be able to tell that if you've been following this channel, you have seen the evolution. Okay, but here's what I want to leave with you. There are 3 core things you can do right now. You can stay informed the way that we do. You can start tracking economic shifts globally. A lot of people say, oh, that's fear-mongering, that's too fearful. But there are some of us who have the grace to see these higher level strategies, to understand economics, to do business in multiple countries. And so don't count yourself out. If you have the strength for it, do it, because your community is going to come to you searching for answers. Number 2, diversify your income streams. We have seen just the past few months, you cannot rely on that W-2. AI is going to take out 40 to 60% of jobs by 2030. You need to become an entrepreneur like yesterday, and you need to be irreplaceable. You need to not just be generic. Like, you can't. There's a time when it was easy to start a freelance business and you could just boom, find clients. A lot of freelancers find issues because they have not mastered marketing and sales. And I want to cross out those terms, marketing and sales, because people think it's just like randomly go viral, randomly knock on doors, randomly, like that's not what it is. I want to replace it with education and trust. If you are not educating an audience on a specific cadence, and if you are not building trust with your business, then you will not have currency. Those 2 things only happen when you have a website that is clearly articulating the problem that your audience is currently facing, how you can provide a solution, and how to help them feel comfortable making the decision to work with you. That is the only way it will happen. And then they're only going to see that website if you're posting on social media or your email list. Ideally, you should be doing both. And number 3, I want you to consider the bigger picture here. I want you to think about what it would look like to raise your family abroad, to build a legacy, an alternative legacy that's different than anything you've ever done. Maybe you're going to be the first person in your family to move back to Africa. Maybe you're going to be the first person in your family to start a business. I know I was. Maybe you're going to be the first person in your family to do, whatever it is, but do it. Sacrifice whatever needs to be sacrificed, because in the years to come, this world is going to look totally different. And just know, your value is not up for debate. Your value is not up for debate. You do not have to debate with corporations, small businesses, frenemies, or anyone else about your value being up for debate. You can go and be amongst people who see your value, especially in business, especially in life in general. You can go to countries where they see your value and they're happy to invite you in the country. Like, this earth is so big, and I never want you to think that you are just stuck in one particular spot that happens to be the hometown that your ancestors were in for like 50 to 100 years or whatever. Okay, I don't want you to feel stuck like that. This is about legacy, strategy, and peace of mind. And understand, worry keeps us stagnant. Like, you can't keep worrying. You can't be afraid to understand economics. You can't be afraid to understand investing in gold. You can't be afraid to understand technical analysis like my husband teaches. You can't be afraid to start a business, because that is going to keep you stagnant. And you know what happens to stagnant water, especially out here in the heat? Mosquitoes fester, the water turns icky and gross, and you do not want that to be you in the spirit when you're just staying fearful and staying like, oh, I don't know what to do. I can't look at the news. I can't comprehend what's going on. Pray for a spirit of understanding and peace. Start to pray for that spirit of Joseph, because obviously Joseph receiving those visions and understanding the interpreting those visions and understanding the famine that would come to the land, saved the entire land of Egypt and his own heritage, his own people, right? You could be that person. But if you are too fearful to even look into what's happening and to understand these things, then you're going to miss it. And it's not just about you missing it. It's about your entire family, your entire generations, your friends, your community. We have people back in Ohio, family and friends, that will reach out and say, hey, we've been following your content. It's phenomenal. We're finally thinking of leaving. Or, hey, we see that you're investing in this. Can you help us? Okay. You could be that very person in the next 5 years, but it will never happen if you stay stagnant. I want you to understand that. Let's stop waiting for permission and start building the kind of life that's truly sovereign. Whether that's in the US, Africa, Europe, Asia, or somewhere else entirely. And if this hits home for you, I want you to drop a comment down below and let me know what you're thinking about your next move. And if you're considering life abroad or legacy building in Africa, you can binge all of the playlists that we have, like the Mauritius Africa playlist, the Black Educators Amplified playlist, the Introvert Marketer playlist. Just go binge the channel. We have so much excellent content for you. And subscribe to members only if you want to see what it was like to get our premium digital nomad visa in Mauritius. Shalom, shalom. I'll talk to you next time.